You're listening to In the Tunnel.
Hello and welcome to In the Tunnel, episode number 120.
Yep, we are back in whatever a studio would be for us together again.
Live in the flesh.
Live in the place in which a door is behind us.
Yep.
Yeah, so we have a decent amount of stuff. We're going to talk baseball for, I think, the first time this year.
It's getting to the point where baseball is becoming more relevant.
And by relevant, we mean it's the only thing left. But, of course, we want to delay that as much as we can. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is college football. The new college football video game coming out. College Football 25. The revival of the series in which we haven't had a game since 2014. I feel like you never played that series.
I don't think I played the 2014 one, but one of the earlier ones.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
I never had the 2014 one. I didn't have really anything considered current or next gen at that point in time, and didn't really get to touch the game until I was a freshman in high school. I think my roommate had a copy of, I think, 13, and that was the last time that I played it. But now that we're in the age of NIL, the game is coming back. I think the structure here was $600 was paid to each college athlete and a free copy of the game. So I mean,
sure.
I think at the end of the day, this is one of those things where it's not like State Farm where they're trying to sell, something that doesn't reap any kind of entertainment value for them. They're not trying to sell a car or anything. I think a lot of players for this game do this because even NFL players play Madden, even NBA players play 2K, and now because of that, and especially when you're at the college age, when you're in college, the social circles on campus, if you're a guy, are, maybe not. You don't know in terms of the video games I played because I'm a sports game guy.
Yeah.
You kind of play Valorant, Rocket League, stuff like that. But for me, sports games were my roommates at UNCG. It was always playing 2K.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if you're in Alabama, Michigan, those kinds of schools, and you're a student, this is going to go extremely hard for the kids on those campuses. I know I saw that Auburn is doing free copies of the game. I don't know if it's free that they're giving away free copies to their students, or if it's they're allowing the students to go to some community center on campus and play it for free. But it's a big deal for colleges. And
my only problem with this type of genre where you have the sports games every year, it's okay, I like NHL, right?
Yeah.
I like the NHL games, but I don't if I buy it one year, it's quite a few years for me until I buy another one.
Because we differ in that I'll buy 2K every year. I think it's a different conversation, but 2K this year sucked. It probably won't prevent me from buying it next year, but I think one of the beautiful things about the college football game is the component of nostalgia.
Yeah, fair.
They obviously didn't create this gap because of a desire to. It was that college sports went from a landscape where people wanted to be paid, but there was nothing that enabled them to be paid.
Uh-huh.
And then 11 years later, we have now established a system where NIL is just, comfortably there for most people, except for school legislators in some areas. So the nostalgia of it, the fact that the 2014 game was still being played by people because it was the last thing that they could hold on to. Mm-hmm. It creates kind of a beautiful thing here. And
I mean, to be fair, right? Like, I actually see like the year versions of like college football being more relevant per se than the year versions of like professional sports, because like college is the one place where rosters kind of just like flip-flop because of like graduating seniors and stuff like that, and transfers, right? So like I do see like that appeal of like, you know, the year format of game, but especially like, we can get into like the other like professional games at a later date, but like NBA, right? You have like cards now, or is that MLB where you?
Yeah, the my team and stuff like that. Which, you know, I think what's going to be different. Like, I don't know all the game modes. Like, I know I've read about, but in terms of knowledge that I've retained regarding this game coming out, it seems like the NIL is paving a way for a lot of different stuff. Yeah. Back then, there was probably, and again, I can't speak concisely and clearly on what 2014 had because I didn't have it.
Yeah.
But you have to assume that the Ultimate Team either used generic versions, you know, like HB, 29.
Yeah.
If they were using current players, or more likely than not, they stayed away from that altogether. And like your Ultimate Teams were all pastime players who graduated to the NFL, or were in some kind of alumni association where their image and likeness could be used without it necessarily being a confliction between the schools, anything like that.
Yeah.
But now I can tell you, these modes are going to have current players in them, and how thrilling that kind of is, because if you're represented by a small school, like, we both went to schools that no longer or do not have D1 college football programs.
Right.
But, like, if you went to North Dakota State University, like where Carson Wentz went, and if that school is in the game this year, to know that, like, it doesn't have to be all Alabama players, Power 5 players. It could be your players playing alongside. And I do think that, to kind of split away from that for a second, the amount of, from what I've seen in the trailers, effort and detail that they've put into the revival of this game to make sure that every school has their mantras, their mottos, their gameplay catchphrases, their walk-in songs, all kind of represented. It's a level of detail that at the very least we have not seen consistently from EA in a long, long time.
To be fair, like I've kind of sidelined most EA games in recent history because of how bad it's been.
Yes, they are the kings of rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
And the fact that a game last came out 11 years ago kind of meant, maybe next year it will be rinse and repeat. But as of right now, like, they basically went from PS3 was the main console for 2014 to we're now on the Xbox Series Series X and PS5. Is like, there's just no room for them to rinse and repeat. They have to have refreshed.
But I mean, even then, like, I'm hopeful in like college football as a franchise of like sports game going forward, that like they can at least kind of change the teams that are represented if they're not, like, because they obviously can't represent all. That's going to be too hard.
Well, they put some emphasis on like Kennesaw State, for example, this year, just because Kennesaw State, I don't think, was a D1 program of prominence the last time that there was a game. So they're trying to show the amount of detail that they're putting in for the smaller schools too, and not just phoning it in.
Right.
They're claiming hundreds of hours of broadcast commentary and stuff. It's like, well, when you have 130 plus football teams, you kind of have to.
But I mean, I hope that like covers like because you have a lot of different scenarios that you kind of have to map a broadcast commentary to. So hopefully give them the benefit of the doubt for this new game at least.
Yeah, I have it pre-ordered. I'm sure, if it's good enough to talk about, then it won't be the last time we talk about. But, just seeing how everything looks right now, it is worth some hype. Being a Pitt fan, every time there's a turnover, they bring out like a mini basketball hoop.
Yeah.
They dunk the football into the basketball hoop. That's in the game.
Nice.
For my girlfriend who went to University of Washington, they run out on the field and they run out with a dog, a husky. That's in the game.
Cool.
And it looks like they've really taken some strides seriously, and Lord knows how long this game has been in development. It could have been that they started this as soon as NIL passed, but only now is it officially getting to the point where they were comfortable enough to release it. But it's a very interesting thing to monitor.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I hope it's good, because EA has just been kind of cruising by into mediocrity, in my opinion.
Yes.
So with even though it's a revitalized, it has to be pretty much new title series.
So with this comes the question of, we used to have both 2K and EA doing college basketball games. We used to have, it was significantly longer ago, but there was one or two college baseball games out there too. What do you think this means for the return of those?
I don't know. The thing is with college football is a very heavily, marketed and heavily watched sport. I mean, it is the biggest, I feel like, in college.
It is notably the moneymaker of college sports.
So I would say that if this is successful, which I think it will be, and I hope it is, you can try going down the ladder.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect such ease of, access to the other games.
Yeah. My thinking is that I think it all comes down to the control of NIL. Because if on a perennial basis, all it takes is $600 in a copy to get consent from players to have their name in the game. Even for basketball, that's a pretty low bar.
But my question is, okay, it's $600 on a copy, but how many players did they promise $600 on a copy to?
Over 4,500, I think.
4,500. That's a lot. Okay, in the grand scheme of things, it might not be. It's $600 to every player. That's not a lot. But if you multiply 600 by 4,500,
right? But I guess what they're implying, at least when we go back to the football game, is they're going to sell you the game for $70. So
right, but
they're going to get millions.
The point is that okay, they're going to get millions for this one. They have to take the loss that is, $600 plus however much a game is produced for.
Right.
And there's a lot of it's not just how much does it cost to put the game on a disc, or now it's just digital.
Yeah.
Right? It's a lot of man hours to create it.
Yes.
So you have to look at okay, it's not going to be as lucrative in the other games, right? This one will definitely make money. I don't doubt it. And if this one does well, there is a very high chance that basketball makes money.
Yes.
But then I don't know about baseball because
I don't know that college baseball is so niche in terms of its audience.
Yeah.
But
I would say that baseball has basketball, has a chance to succeed.
I think it has a chance if it's not 2K versus EA. I think it has to be, and I hate the fact that EA has monopolized and done exclusive licensing for NFL that basically have prevented us from getting better football games, and they probably have that for NHL too, but the NHL market is just more niche, so it doesn't get the recognition. But I think that might be the only path for survival for college basketball, at least right now. Because, like, schools do NIL deals where those players for college basketball are getting 1 or 2 million. So, in theory, there is room there for, a smaller amount if that's all it takes. Because, like, you also have to keep in mind, like, we're talking different roster sizes. We're talking 12 people, 12 to 15 on a basketball team. We're talking in college football, I think it's 90, and 90 is what most have, and there is no hard limit on roster size. Right. So if walk on, I think it's only scholarship players are on the college football game. So if they did that same system with college basketball, assume that 12, maybe 11 or 10 on each team are in the game. I think there is a route there, but
I mean, like, in basketball, right, you have 5 players on the court at any time, right? So I think your minimum has to be 10.
Right.
Whereas in football, like, your minimum is what, 24?
53.
53. Well, no, I mean, like, on the field, right?
Well,
like,
it'll be 22 for each starting, and then
probably 30, extra,
Yeah, special teams would probably bring up to like 35.
And then, like, maybe a couple extra wide receivers for different formations.
Kickoff team, stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
like
maybe
50.
close to, yeah, that's a number that I can agree with.
50.
So,
So, but, like, the point more so is, okay, well, it's not, like, for football, $600 a player for 4,500 players is not much in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
Now, for basketball with less of a player base, right? Mm-hmm. Just what is that equivalent? And then does it make sense for EA basically to
But the weird thing is, I would argue that as big as college football is on a Saturday basis, that when it comes to March Madness versus the college football playoff, I think the college football playoff will get better now that it's 12 teams. But I think for the longest time, college basketball had the better crowning.
Yes, I agree. I think March Madness was great, but, like, I never watched the regular season of college basketball.
Right. I mean, it wasn't until I, went to college and actually had a school to root for, in which I was able to, proudly kind of pay attention. Like, would I have ever watched a UNCG or Hofstra game before I went to either of those schools? No. It would be Pitt or, like, Purdue.
Yeah.
But now it's like, there is an art in watching those schools, but, like, there's very clearly a talent differential.
Yeah.
You'll see shots missed way differently. And by the way, I asked ChatGPT for the top 25 teams alone, 2,500 to 3,000 players. So we're now going to...
But let's say that in college basketball, we'd like to play some sort of March Madness bracket. So you need 68 teams.
Well, no, I'm talking about college football.
Oh.
So we have to do what? Let's call it 138, I think. Divided by 25. So times 3,000. There's roughly 16,500 players in the game. But that would be including walk-ons.
Yeah, but only scholarship players?
So we're somewhere in the area of tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. That's a lot of money to pay.
Yeah.
So...
Because if you just like it's $600 per player, right? And let's say it's 10,000, right? So you're just concatenating some more zeros. That's like over $500,000.
Oh yeah. Which I don't think at the end of the day is going to be like, I understand there's more college basketball teams than there are college football, but there's more college football players than there are college basketball players, regardless of the number of teams. But, like, I don't feel like the sum in investing in NIL is overly different. I think it's going to come down to the operating costs of
making the game, because the game, like,
profitable.
even right, like they basically had to make the college football game from scratch, right? There's nothing to base it off of anymore,
right?
As all the technology they built it on 11 years ago is redundant,
right? But I do think that there's a difference in basketball. I do think that if 2K got licensing rights, that they already have modes built into 2K My Career where you can do college. And, like, so in terms of building out, like, some of that stuff, there are some presets in which to build around.
Yeah, but, like, if I were to see...
They would have to do school exclusive, exclusive kind of stuff, like...
They'd need the commentary all over
the
again.
Environments, the assets.
The courts, right? And if I'm seeing a new college game, I would really want to see a March Madness type bracket kind of play out.
The NCAA did have one that was kind of an add-on game back in the day where it was just purely March Madness.
Okay.
And so I think some gamers would love the grind more. But I do think that the casual gamer would like more of a let's just get it in.
But if we're factoring how do they market this game, right? Like 2K, right? It's going to be during March Madness when you have the most amount of viewership, right? And how do you get people to play the game? It's going to be like the casual.
I actually think that there's an angle of you broadcast it the most at the end of college football season. Because, like, right now, when we were at the end of NBA and NHL,
right,
that would have been the perfect time to start advertising the baseball video game. Because once those seasons are over and you need something sports...
Like, because for me, right, when going into playoffs, I'm like, I really want to watch this again. Like, I didn't, like, I watched the beginning of the basketball season. Then I kind of fall off, and the playoffs come, and I'm like, basketball, right? Because, like, I'm hoping it's good, right?
Yeah.
But that's just how I look at it. So, like, I would have preferred... Like, I probably would have been more drawn to it if it was at the beginning of the playoffs.
Makes sense. I just think that, like, if you're diehard sports, you need something to give you the taste that you need.
Right.
Like, it's a drug. And once that sport is taken away from you for a few months, like NBA and NHL were... Unless you were the champions or a fan of the championship team and you have some rewatchability to the moments that you just went through, you basically, as NBA and NHL hit a zero.
Yeah, but, like, I'm looking at more from, like, the casual person who's, like, getting, like, just coming back for the playoffs, right? Or, like, if somebody was to say, like, the NHL season is over, or, hey, look at this MLB, I'm like, I don't care.
And yet,
like, that's just, like, again, that's all how do they get it to market. But I do think, like, okay, if this is successful, which I think it will be, and as long as the game is good, because I think this game will be successful without it needing to be good or bad. As long as the game is good, a basketball version will work. I don't know about anything else, though.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping for it. Like, as much as I'm going to love the comeback of this football game, me being a basketball guy first, I'm going to want that to be the next step. I don't foresee it being within another 2 years, though. If that, I think that the likes of EA and some of these other developers are going to be like, we know this worked because the first stage was the nostalgic phase. We need to see what consistently will work. I think that's good.
All right, so you want to talk about NBA now?
Yeah, let's talk about how college has affected NBA, and that is through the introduction of LeBron James' son to the NBA. And that has become a clear talking point. We are now witnessing the opening of the Summer League, or the first of 3 Summer Leagues. I guess they called this one the California Classic or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So we knew for a while that something was afoot. There was so Bronny, LeBron's son. Unfortunately, don't wish this on anybody, had a bit of a cardiovascular injury
Yeah.
that sidelined him, and obviously the recovery of that was way more important. He still ends up at USC as a highly recruited freshman.
Yeah.
He still ends up playing a majority of the season to the likings of 4.2 points per game, 2.8 rebounds, I think, and 2.1 assists. He, to set the scene and keep the story going, at the end of the season, enters the transfer portal. A lot of people think he's going to Duquesne here in Pittsburgh because the assistant coach who became the head coach is LeBron's coach, one of LeBron's teammates in high school. And so Duquesne's a system that has family ties to LeBron. No one takes it seriously that Bronny's actually going to do anything other than test the waters and go back to college.
Yeah.
He does not. He fully goes for it. And now the rumors swirl. Bronny's going to be a first-round pick because a team like the Suns is going to invest one of their very few first-round picks in an effort to try to lure somebody like LeBron at the end of his career, and provide the Ken Griffey father-son dynamic. It ends up being that nobody's actually going to touch, Bronny with a first-round pick. Very clearly, it's going to be second or undrafted. Yeah. The odds shift heavily to that. Bronny's represented by the same guy who represents LeBron. Fair enough. So Bronny has his agent says in the second round, do not draft Bronny unless you're going to give him a guaranteed roster spot in the NBA. Otherwise, he's going to go to Australia for a year. As the second round goes on, they're saying to teams, do not draft him. Just let him go to Australia. So 5 picks before the end of the draft. Wouldn't you know, the Lakers jump in and take Bronny. They give him 4 years of a guaranteed contract at the NBA level, which is significant because last year's 55th round or 55th overall pick got $560.
Yeah.
Overall on a 2-year two-way, I think, deal. Leaving somebody else, at this point in time, it's not necessarily that we're saying it's nepotism in the fact that very clearly there's some pulling the strings here.
Yeah. I agree.
The problem is that as worthless as second-round picks have become in the NBA, somebody else's shot was taken away. And, very clearly, this is what everybody for months expected to happen if Bronny went to the NBA. Mm-hmm. The problem with it is that it's not only he gets drafted in the spot he does, it's that he's being catered to like he's a first-round pick who's actually done something.
Yeah, I mean, they at the end of the day, I don't see much of a difference if you're a second-round pick or undrafted.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that in the summer league. I hate to make it Pittsburgh, but there was a guy who went to Pitt, shot 42% from 3, which is ridiculous in college.
Yeah.
Average 18.5 points per game, all ACC first team. He gets undrafted. He goes to the Lakers on a 2-year, two-way deal.
Yeah.
First game of Summer League was yesterday. That guy went 5 for 7 for 3, scored somewhere between, I think, 18 to 21 points in 17 minutes. And Bronny did exactly what his college stat line was, which was 4 points, 2 assists, and 2 rebounds. And social media is buzzing not about the guy who went for 18 and shot 5 for 7. They're buzzing about the guy who went 4, 2, and 2.
Yeah.
And it's like, at the end of the day, that draft pick probably meant some money to somebody.
Yeah.
And it was taken away for somebody who really, like, what would have been the harm of Bronny going to college for another year and doing it himself? Because...
But like I don't get he's gonna go to Australia for a year. Like what the heck? Like college is not bad.
It kind of is similar in the sense to the Ball brothers, where it's like LiAngelo went to UCLA, he got kicked off the team, and so he went to some European country, and so did LaMelo.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, they're gonna go get paid because clearly their name is enough to get them paid, and it will draw eyes somewhere. But the idea is that it's, you think that this guy's in demand in the NBA. Well, he's going to be more in demand somewhere else, so we have leverage. And I think at the end of the day, it's like, well, this is just prolonging something. Yeah. It's like Bronny entered the draft.
Yeah.
He's not going to get another crack at the draft. Once you declare for the draft and you're in that pool, if you're not drafted, you just become a free agent.
Right.
So I think the representation knew that it was a clear way to get the Lakers to draft him. Because if the Lakers even said no, then they lose all leverage. There's never a road for Bronny to go to the NBA.
Yeah, but we'll see, but I don't think anything of this, like, in terms of this will not pan, like, all power to him if it pans out, but like it does not look like it's going to pan out in any good way.
My projection is LeBron is 39. If they're doing the thing like Ken Griffey
Yeah,
Jr.
but
and Senior,
I hate that thing because, like, you have 10 spots on a freaking NBA roster, right?
And I also hate that comparison. I know it's the most notable comparison. I hate it because your name is kind of meaningless in baseball because, like, Ken Griffey Sr. was, with the Reds and then ended up signing with the Mariners at the end of his career because Jr. was in the farm system. Yeah. That's completely different because if Ken Griffey Jr. is in the farm system, you still have to go through all those levels and actually achieve your way
But
up.
Also, like, Ken Griffey Jr. was in the farm system already. It was not like he used his father's name to get drafted by the Reds.
Right. It was just kind of like Jr. was progressing through the farm system and was inevitably going to prove that he was worth being there.
Yeah.
And that's the difference in this is that people are like saying, oh, well, Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. did it. It was like, well, the difference is that Jr. still earned it and Sr. was on the back end of his career and had the choice to do it. Right. This is completely different. This is Jr. is handed the keys to the car despite the fact that he doesn't have a permit, he doesn't have a license, he never even took the driver's test, anything like that. Yeah. And it's like, well, why wouldn't he be able to drive? It's like, well, because nobody taught him how to. He hasn't shown, he never put out the cones and did the parallel parking or anything like that. He hasn't shown anybody a capacity to perform at that level. So why would I trust that he can do that?
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's why I dislike the kind of comparison. It's because, like, he was already there. It's not like in that scenario, right? It might have been the fact that Junior was in the farm system that brought Senior to Miami,
but like back then, it's like what we're looking at now is LeBron James is going to command whatever money the Lakers can give to him. Where at the end of Ken Griffey Sr.'s career, first of all, the
guy just wanted to play.
That team, the Mariners, were building, didn't need him. So, the money probably wasn't heavy to get him.
Nope.
And it just happened to be and if that team was crap, because granted, we're not looking up those stats right now, it was like, yeah, then that becomes a novelty where it's no consequences. But the Lakers are toying with this notion that they're going to win rings and they're still doing the novelty.
Right.
It's
and
like if this happened in Charlotte with the Hornets, nobody would bat an eye because the Hornets still aren't going to do anything.
But like it's like the Lakers are paying the James tax.
Right. It is like the cost of entertainment, nobody is going to an NBA game at this point in time thinking about Bronny. It's an afterthought of, oh, this is really cool that it gets to happen.
Right.
But at the end of the day, Bronny's going to be the water boy.
Yep.
And so what really is the point of that?
Yep.
So, I don't know.
All right. We're going to flip the switch to baseball now that we're finally close to mid-season.
Yeah, so, I mean, do we want to go standings first?
We'll do the American League first.
All right.
The overall standings.
Yeah, so we have the Guardians leading the pack going into today. Just a nice note, it's what, the 7th?
Yeah, it's the 7th.
So it's the 7th. A lot of day games today, but we woke up early to make sure that these graphics were accurate as of this morning. So we have the Guardians in first place overall for the AL, tied with the Orioles, with the Yankees close behind in third in overall. We're not just looking at this division leaders. So the Yankees do have a bit of a leg up. It looks like the AL West is so far being the Mariners in front.
Yeah.
But so we go Guardians, Orioles. Yankees are 2 games back of the Orioles.
Yep.
We have the Twins 6 back of a share of first place. The Red Sox close behind, they're 7.5 back.
Then we finally get to the Mariners at 8 games back.
Royals at 9. Astros round out the top 8 at 10 games back.
And then you have the Rays at 12. I still call them the Devil Rays sometimes. And then you have the Rangers and Tigers tied at 15 games back in overall standings. The Blue Jays at 16 games back. The Angels at 18.5. And then the Athletics and White Sox rounding out the bottom of the standings at 23 games back and 31 respectively.
So, of these teams, not to touch on the Athletics first for the reason of them being disappointing, because we kind of knew what they were.
Yeah.
But they did start kind of hot on the season.
Yeah.
But, I wouldn't have necessarily thought that they plummeted as hard as they did until we were making these graphics last night. The White Sox, I went to a White Sox game earlier this year. I don't know what's going on there. Because, the one game I saw, they won. But they seemingly have gone very long stretches without said wins.
Yep.
But I think the talking point here is the Rangers. We knew that the Rays were probably slated for a bit of a decline. The Wander Franco thing last year really took some of the air out of where they were looking to go. Because they had Wander locked up for, 10 years. And the trajectory was built around him. They had good pieces. Now it seems like they have decent pieces, but everything else in which they had to build around has crumbled.
Yep.
But at the same time, they're in better standing than the Rangers. Now we're talking about last year's defending champs. We're talking about a team that had really high draft picks, despite the fact that they flipped and turned around and won the World Series. So they have the likes of Wyatt Langford coming up, who I think has made his presence onto the MLB roster this year. Mm-hmm. And yet they're 15 back of first.
Yeah.
They didn't really lose a lot of pieces either, so...
I mean, it's just we're halfway through the season at this point, a little bit more in some cases. And we'll see what they could do in the latter half where things really start heating up.
Yeah, I'm curious. Their record appears to be, ChatGPT decides it's going to start 42-48.
Mm-hmm.
Not great for them. I mean, it's always weird to look at it when it's in the presence of. You go from World Series champion to we're more than halfway into the season and you're under 500.
Yeah, I mean it's 6 games under, but like still, it's not where you want to be coming off of.
Yeah, I think the AL West, unfortunately, is just going to be a decoy when it comes to playoff time, because like as much as the Mariners are seemingly in the hunt, they always seem to fall out or just not last long enough into the playoffs to really matter. And they're the team that notably is ahead right now. The Astros, I guess, could make their way back into the picture. And, with how they develop players, I wouldn't throw anything past them in their ability to do that.
Yep.
I just don't know that they're as fortified in their quest to do so as they had been.
Yep.
So it seems to be like a punching race between the Orioles, Yankees, and Red Sox, although even now the Yankees are kind of slumping and they're still only 2 back out of being in the lead.
Yeah, but I mean, you got the Orioles at the top. I think, like, I mean, even though Boston is 7.5 games back of overall standings, like that
roster doesn't look like it's built to necessarily. Like,
I don't
I understand that talent only gets you so far, but Boston, I feel like, is trying to play their version of Moneyball, where I think only Devers is on his own a huge contract.
Yeah,
and so they have a lot of guys who are like from the farm, and kudos to them, it's working, but like it's not notably working. It just kind of is silently working. So we'll see how far that gets them, because compared to the Yankees, you'll never know a Yankee who kind of went about success quietly.
Yeah,
like that's just how it's portrayed.
Yeah.
So you want to shift over to the wild card and just stay on the AL?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so we have the Yankees leading that wild card chase. They're 5.5 games up on the second place Twins that are 1.5 games up on the third place Red Sox.
So the third place Red Sox are break even right now.
Yeah.
And following them as we have the Royals at 1.5, Astros at 2.5, and Rays at 4.5 games back of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, how we have in the overall standings, right? The top teams, like the Yankees and the top 2, are quite far ahead of the rest of the pack, really.
Yeah, and
right?
the Royals for a while there were at least 10 or 11 games above 500. It looks like they're down to just 5 games over 500. Yep. And they did acquire a heap load of guys in the offseason.
Right.
So they're in potentially good standing to make a move. They didn't, they signed a lot of guys through free agency, so they, in theory, still have prospects to go get more.
Mm-hmm.
And 1.5 games back is plenty of space to make up when you're only really chasing the Twins and Red Sox. Because, like, the Yankees, I guess, in theory, are chasing, but, like, more realistically, the ones to pounce on are the ones in that second and third seat.
Yeah, that second and third are really close, right? So, like, if you're the Royals right now, right, you have 3 games to the second play in the race, right? Yeah. So, I mean, if you're anybody that's not the Twins, really, I would discount the Yankees from your, like, chase.
Right, exactly.
And, like, we were talking about the Rangers before, right? Them and the Tigers are 7.5 games back. You have the Blue Jays at 8.5 and the Angels at 11. I really don't think the other 2 teams need a mention because they're quite far.
The fact that the White Sox are within 30 games is kind of incredible.
Yeah, the other 2 teams are quite far in the Athletics and the White Sox, but yeah, the Rangers have a lot to make up for, and we're only like almost 90 games in. I think they are 90 games
40
in.
and 43, or 42 and 48 would be 90. Yeah.
90 games in. So they have 70 games to right now make up 7.5. And
72, right? 162?
Yeah. A little bit of rounding.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not insurmountable right now, but like if they let that get to double digits, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. For me, the only teams I'm like rooting against here are the Astros. Like a team like the Tigers, like as much as it would be really funny for a team that's biggest contract is Javi Baez to make the playoffs, they really shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because they have good pitching now, and they have decent young players, but I just can't get behind a Javi Baez-led team making some noise at this point in his career. He's been so terrible for a lot of decent teams, and I don't think that he necessarily deserves the chance to lead the charge.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, again, I just think like out of the teams that aren't in the top 6 of our graphic, like I don't know, like I hope the Rangers can put together something, but like aside from that, like I don't think any of them are like really in the hunt.
Yeah. All right, so let's switch over to NL.
Yeah, so in the National League, we'll start with the good old Phillies at the top of the National League overall, followed by the Dodgers at 3.5 games back, and then the Brewers at 6.5.
Yeah, so we have Moneybags in the first and second place.
Yep.
And then we have the Brewers who kind of do it on a budget, like a mixed budget. The Braves are in fourth with 9 games back, but that's because their offense just has not really shown up this year. That seems to be the consensus. The Padres, despite the fact that they got rid of guys, have elevated their play. They're only 10.5 back, and they're in a position to make the wild card. Then we got the Cardinals, Diamondbacks, and Mets all sitting in the pack.
Yeah, Cardinals are at 11.5, and then the Diamondbacks and Mets are tied at 14 games back.
And then rounding out the second half of the NL, we have the Giants at 14.5 back, the Pirates at 15.5 back, Reds at 16.
Along with the Nationals.
Yep.
And then the Cubs at 17.5, the Rockies and Marlins to round it out at 26 and 27 respectively.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's not really much in terms of surprise here.
I mean, the only thing is, right, like, you look at the top half of the AL and you look at the top half of the NL, your teams that are good are clear in the AL. Like, you have the 3 teams that are within 2 games of each other. 2 are tied right now.
Right.
And here you have the one team that is above all.
Yeah. And, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of better for baseball when you have this many teams in the mix, because baseball is the sport where when you get to the playoffs, anything can happen.
Right.
It's, people would say that about any given Sunday with football, but I think hockey and baseball are the 2 teams where, like, all you need is a pitcher to steal you a game, and that sways momentum.
Right.
And so,
but
I think we're looking at a good race.
Yeah, but like my problem with the NL is like you're not even halfway through the standings, and there are already teams that are 14 games under.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Like being a Pirates fan, that like we're now 5 games under 500 again.
Yep.
And we keep going back and forth on if we're going to make up ground or lose it.
Yeah.
In position to either be buyers or sellers, and
right. But on the opposite side, right? Like the wild card race in the NL is a lot more, competitive.
Yeah, which makes it fun and interesting in a way. And so our wild card, we're looking at the Braves are number 1 at 2.5 games up. The Padres are a half game up, holding on to that second spot. The Cardinals are currently occupying that 3rd spot, despite the fact that they were really bad to start the year.
Yeah, and then you have 2 teams at 2.5 games back. They were tied in the overall standings, right?
The Diamondbacks and Mets.
And followed
that
by the
may
Giants.
have since changed with the Mets winning today.
Yeah.
The Giants at 3 games back. The Pirates at 4 games back. Hard to believe that probably isn't 5 games now. Yeah. The Reds at 4.5. The Nationals at 4.5. the Cubs at 6,
and then I really don't
and
think
then we don't need to mention the Rockies and Marlins.
But like my thing is right. I actually see like any of the top 10 teams right there.
Yeah,
can make it because between the Cubs and the Braves, that's 8.5 games.
Yeah,
and 8.5 in what 70 some games.
Yeah,
is
something will move.
Yeah,
and I think the fact the Padres are only half a game up, like not that the Braves won't eventually have a streak where they go cold, like every team does, but the Padres only being half a game up, despite all the luck that they've had. The Cardinals have, like I said, been horrible, and only in the past couple weeks kind of hit somewhat of a stride, and so they occupy that last spot. But once you get into the boxing match that is the Reds, Pirates, Cardinals, and Cubs, all within 4 games of each other, really. Except, I mean, I guess
Red Pirates Nationals.
The Cubs are 6 games. So, like,
yeah,
I know for the Pirates, they haven't played a lot of these teams. Like, they haven't played the Reds or Cubs a ton this year.
Yeah.
So, conceivably, there's going to be more of a boxing match in the second half and jostling for position. So, we're still looking at the NL Central will make some kind of move, whether it's the Reds, Pirates, I doubt at this point because they just can't get over 500. Cubs or Cardinals will maybe keep it, but like a lot of these teams in the NL Central have tried to jostle to get more talent and put themselves in a position to take a step forward this year. So it's hard to believe that the old normal casting crew of the Cardinals are going to be able to keep holding this reign.
Right.
And I think that's the most annoying part as a Pirates fan is that the Cardinals looked to, when they had Pujols last year, was the sign that, hey, we're going into a rebuild.
Yeah.
This is the novelty phase. We brought back Matt Carpenter. We brought back Pujols, Brandon Crawford. We're investing in older guys so that they can play out their twilight.
Yeah.
But here they are in the mix.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it's going to be a good NL race, or at least it's shaping up to look like a good NL race. But we're again, as we've said, over halfway through the season. So guess what that means?
Home Run Derby,
All-Stars.
Yeah, so we got our logo, we got our jerseys for the All-Star break.
And can I just say I really just like that?
And can I say that we have to talk is like it's very clear that at this point the MLB switched to putting the All-Star jerseys into the All-Star game for a money grab.
Yeah.
Which to no fault of anybody's to do that because the NBA All-Star game does that, the Pro Bowl does that, the NHL All-Star game does that. But at one point in time, all these leagues, the NBA used to be your own jersey. Yep. So did, I think the Pro Bowl was the only one where it wasn't.
Yeah.
Did hockey?
Hockey did their own jersey for a little bit.
Yeah, but they switched in the 90s, I feel like.
They switched pretty early.
And so, like, the NBA switched in the, 2000s. So a lot of our generation, our childhood was with these team jerseys, but baseball always kind of stayed with the represent your own team's colors.
Yeah, now they only wear the cap.
Now they don't. Well, no, I don't think they even do that.
Oh, they don't wear the cap. Oh no, they have their logo on the cap.
Yeah, you have your own logo branded into the same theme.
Yeah,
which, admittedly, the hats aren't as bad as the jersey.
No,
but I get they went Texas theme because. Texas is
that's such
host.
a cop-out Texas theme, not gonna lie.
Yeah, they really just smacked a Midwestern font on there.
Yeah.
But going creamsicle color, never a great look. And they really did
that
the AL.
That AL jersey is like a travesty.
They did the AL bad.
NL jersey is like okay.
The NL jersey is kind of like the Cubs City Connect, where it's dark blue and light blue, and it's like it can work in the right setting. The font still sucks, but
it's like okay, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a 4 or 5 out of 10.
Yeah,
the AL jersey,
it's a travesty. Like I'd give it a negative
really
2.
Bad. Like.
I'd give it a negative 2.
I get that you do this for the colorblind because when you're broadcasting the game, like, you have to have contrast. But, like, you didn't have to design a jersey in a way in which there is an actual winner and loser just when you step on the field. And they really did that. And they made it really bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think, like, maybe we're just older now and we're trying to be nostalgic, and a lot of Twitter is our age too. I mean,
like, okay, I just have a problem with these jerseys, right? You look at
the Seattle ones last year were nice.
Seattle, like, those are great.
Although the problem with the Seattle ones is that Nike admittedly was like, well, we used this All-Star weekend to create the jerseys that we all have now with the smaller font and everything. Is like, okay, but nobody gave a shit about the All-Star Game jerseys to that extent.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one time where you're focused on the front of the jersey and not the back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Nike kind of left us in a bad scenario with that one.
Yeah, but, like, it's like, do I avoid watching any of the All-Star Weekend shenanigans so I don't have to look at the travesty that is the American League jerseys? Like,
I mean,
that is a legitimate question.
And there is a legitimate opportunity to do such.
Yeah,
I think,
especially with the home run derby.
Yeah, which we have quite the interesting cast for that as well.
With the two players
have been.
Well, let's go with the good one, or the at least more accepted one first.
The more like actual home run derby fit.
Yeah.
So, and let's prefix this with Shohei Ohtani decided not to.
Yes, correct.
Because Shohei has either somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 35 home runs.
Yeah.
Which is by all means ahead of the pack.
Yep.
But he's already been there. He's done that a few years. He also is a pitcher rebounding from Tommy John last year.
Yep.
And it's an excuse to not keep adding wear to his body.
Yep.
So Gunnar Henderson from the Orioles is our number one. We only know 2 candidates right now. And I'm sure there will be more coming in the next few days. But it's Gunnar Henderson, who has 26 home runs, and Alec Bohm of the Phillies, who has 11. And again, not to be overly Pittsburgh here, despite that's where we're recording from, 37-year-old Andrew McCutchen has more.
Yes. Which is a surprise to me because I was like, there's no way they would choose something.
11 home runs it's maybe top 50 in like a tied capacity in baseball, but it's not enough in my opinion.
Like, okay, like I get like what Shohei Ohtani's not doing it, and you have Gunnar Henderson has like 25,
right?
I believe. But like there has to be somebody else close to 20.
And I think that you have to start asking the question about the format of the home run derby because of the player pool has always been, as far as I'm aware, you have to be an all-star to be in the home run derby.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be an NBA all-star to be in the dunk contest. No. And the NHL, I guess, for the skills competition, they've really at times opened up the player pool to see. They've gifted all-star appearances to guys that make sense.
But also, like, there's an abundance of NHL all-stars.
Right.
Because, like, every team has 1 plus fan vote. Like, they will find somebody who at least is relevant in that skill.
So, in my opinion, a guy like O'Neal Cruz or Ellie De La Cruz for the Reds, we've seen them both hit 460-foot home runs on a number of occasions this year. I've seen O'Neal Cruz hit 2 into the river out of the stadium in person this year. My thinking is he's a 230, 240-ish hitter right now. He probably isn't going to get an all-star nod, but if we're talking entertainment value, a guy like him should be getting an invite.
Yeah. I mean, I really do think that they should kind of separate the all-star game from the home run derby because they are different, right?
Yeah.
Like in the terms of player pool. It's just like it'll be more fun to see the higher home run guys. And what, you can just you just need to print a jersey with their logo on the side or whatever, wherever it goes.
What does it really matter at the end of the day? The thing about the home run derby, and I understand it's been the same format in terms of the players who get in for years and years, but that 2008 home run derby with Josh Hamilton, stuff like that, it delivers because Josh Hamilton was a slugger who hit bombs like that.
Yeah.
And right now we're at an era of the stats show, advanced analytics have to be a certain way to be an all-star.
I also think previously also the people who are bombing home runs were all-stars because that was our general perception of who was good. Right? But now we don't really care about bombing home runs. We care about a more holistic stat view.
Right, and we care, and as long as juice balls or not juice balls are going to be a yearly question, pitchers are getting more love for what they can do.
Yeah.
Which means that just being a guy who hits for high average should get you in the All-Star game because you were able to defeat the elite pitchers on a more consistent basis.
Right.
The problem with that is that means that more contact hitters like Alec Boehm are getting the call to be a home run derby participant.
Right. So that's why I really think that it's what okay, you probably can find one person on the All-Star ballot that's hit close to 20 home runs, and then you just, invite somebody else. If you're going to keep the home run derby as part of All-Star weekend.
I'd say half the ballot should maybe be, non-All-Stars.
I mean, sure. It needs some representation from actual bombers.
But I don't know that 2 is enough.
Yeah. But, that's just me saying. If they at least did that, okay, you're at least trying something. Because, I really don't expect them to just open up half the ballot immediately.
Yeah. No, I get that. But they're also changing the rules, I guess, the format in terms of they're going this year. What was it? 3 minutes
or
3 minutes, and then after that, you get a number of outs because I guess they're trying to, or no, was a number of
swings.
Yeah, you get 10 swings, and then in the second round, you get a number of outs after the 3 minutes. It all seems like they're trying to do a little bit of everything, despite the fact that really the heyday of the home run derby was the fact that you could see a guy just go off. And as long as there's a timer there, the home run derby will end at 10 p.m. instead of what it used to, which was midnight.
Yeah.
And the appeal to that was, especially if you had a ticket in hand and you were going to the home run derby, you were going to see a number of home runs that you would never see before.
But so my thing is, right, if we're really looking at how the heck the home run derby should be run, I'm okay with the time attack phase, right? Give everybody 5 minutes or whatever in the first round and just have them slug, right?
Right.
And then because they do head to head, right?
Yes.
Then do each player gets X amount of swings.
Yeah, although
because that's a more head to head as
me personally, I think that just go back to the outs because I do think that having a number of swings is still a sly way of saying we're putting a cap on what you can do.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, whichever way, as long as, because I feel in a more head to head matchup, you want some equality. Yeah. Right? And I guess the outs could do it. So, yeah, whatever. But I really feel okay, you don't have to overplay the time portion of it. That's my only.
Yeah, I honestly would think like you can't do 10 minutes because like 10 minutes is an eternity. But like I feel like you have to give enough of a time limit for something truly crazy to happen.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes the home run derby memorable, is to see a guy do that.
Yeah.
You know, there's always the volatile side of you could run into, I think it was Brandon Inge years and years ago hit like 0.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the wild card regardless of time or any format.
Yeah.
But like you need to give players an opportunity to present a lasting moment, you know, for children to hold on to something and say wow to. And I don't think the past few years have given that.
Nope.
And I don't think that this year's is really any different. I think they're just reshuffling the deck to say that they can.
With whom is already on the home run derby ballot,
right.
It doesn't look like it's shaping up to be anything good.
Yeah.
And it's I would probably skip it if I didn't want to watch it for this.
Yeah, you know, my thing has always been to watch at least part of the home run derby because it is nostalgic and you do get some of it. But I'll only watch really the whole thing at this point if I'm A, gambling on it, or B, my team is represented in it.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, 2 of the 4 times that my team was represented, Jason Bay, I think, had 1 or 0, and Andrew McCutcheon had 4, and Pedro Alvarez got bumped in the first round. Yep. So, like, it would be nice to see a guy like O'Neal Cruz, or even Brian Reynolds is a contact hitter, but he's 16 home runs. Like, he can drive one pretty far. So, I don't know. For me, it's about representation. And then if your team gets in it to be like, all right, you have 3 minutes, is like, well, we already see Vlad Guerrero Jr. We already see Ohtani. This is a platform kind of, I'm not saying that those guys shouldn't be in it, but this is a platform for power talent to be showcased regardless of if it's the most notable name or not.
Right.
And 3 minutes seems like an awfully short window of time to prove that you belong on
which
that
is
stage.
why they do the plus swings or plus outs after,
I guess.
Which is like, but like that's just too complex.
Yeah, it's a cop-out to say that they gave them a chance.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for a redo in the sense of out with the new and with the old a little bit more.
Yep.
I don't know. Do you have anything else?
No.
I think that's all the topics we have.
Yeah, that's all the topics we have.
So,
yeah. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Unfortunately, not in person.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, but yeah.